amongst the conservation organizations to understand what we are doing right and what we could improve in terms of respecting indigenous peoples and local communities and foster a better alliance with them. We have several cases around the world. I work in the Amazon. I have more familiarity to talk about that. But certainly what I think is that it is important to say here at this first moment is that this is not one specific project, one specific initiative, one specific region. We do have some partnerships here in this Congress, including our case in the Amazon, with colleagues that are here, like the representative of Koika. But what I want to express is that we believe that that's the only way. We need to work together to try to understand each other, respect the rights, but understand that ultimately what we have in front of us is a huge opportunity to work together in synergy to be able to face the threats that are much stronger than us, even us together. So we need to unite. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moreno, for seeing opportunities in this synergy. I would like to call on Mr. Andrew Jones, Director of Intergovernmental Relations and Relations.
Thank you, and good afternoon. I have a confession to make. I work for the Nature Conservancy, and we are a somewhat schizophrenic organization. Let me explain what that means, particularly as it relates to human rights and indigenous peoples. We just celebrated our 60th anniversary last year. There are places around the world where we work that we have worked for 60 years. We have a deep and abiding commitment to place. And to be successful in our conservation initiatives in those places, we work very closely with the local stakeholders and partners in the communities that are there. That is a tremendous asset that we bring everywhere around the world where we work. Because with that commitment to place and the commitment to the people in those places, requires us to build long-term partnerships to understand the people that we work with, to understand their interests, to accommodate and support those interests. That's a tremendous asset and strength that we bring in dealing with indigenous communities around the world. But the other side of our personality is that we tend to take a very transactional approach to much of our conservation work. So that first place where we started working 60 years ago was the Miamis Gorge in New York. It's part of the watershed of New York City. And we did a land deal where we bought land. We still hold it and conserve it today, 60 years later. But by working in a transactional approach, we tend to sometimes work very fast with the partners that are around the table. And we tend not to spend a lot of time thinking about the interests and opportunities of the other partners around the table because we're there to do a deal. And we assume everyone else is there to do a deal too. That part of our personality can sometimes get us into trouble if we don't take the time to understand all of the different interests of the other people around the table. Or if we try in a very private sector mentality to do a deal fast. Or where it really gets complicated is there are multiple parties to a deal, and we're trying to move at the speed of business and get things done. So the challenge that we face as an organization is reconciling these two parts of our personality. The long-term commitment to place and the people there, the long-term relationships that come with that, and the let's move at the speed of business and do deals quickly and get things done. In working with indigenous communities, we have a long history in many places around the world, many places where we've got it right, and some other places where we still have some work to do. We work a lot in the Amazon, in Australia, in Canada, the United States. We've recently started working in Africa. There are a couple of examples I can point to of where we've gotten things right, and it's where we've taken the time to sit down and understand the interests of the partners, the stakeholders, and the indigenous communities that we're working with. To understand the difference between stakeholders and rights holders, to understand what a rights-based approach means, and to understand the agendas of the communities who are on the other side of the table from us. Where we've worked the best is where we've learned where there's a strong overlap between the agenda and the interests we bring to the table and the interests and agendas that our partners in communities also support. That makes it fairly easy. We've got some examples where we've been very successful working with Indigenous communities, where we took the time to understand their agenda, where there was overlap and where there wasn't, and where we could figure out how to accommodate a larger agenda that the Indigenous communities brought to the table, because that was necessary for long-term sustainable success. And think of a lot of the work we've done in the Amazon in particular, working with communities, for Indigenous communities to build life plans, to understand their whole development needs, their whole development agenda, and recognize there's a piece of it that's around conservation that we can support, but if we want to succeed, we need to be able to support a much wider agenda to get there. So in the interest of the continuing dialogue, so when my comments to this, I'd like to sort of continue this theme about reconciling our own schizophrenia and talking about how to reconcile the long-term abiding commitment to place and the people there that helps us get things done, and our drive to get things done quickly in a transactional approach, the challenges that brings, but the overwhelming need to change things in the world at a pace that we've never seen before in human history. We're going to succeed with both the conservation agenda and the human rights agenda and the Indigenous agenda. So I look forward to continuing dialogue. TNC is trying to improve our practice, and we've recently committed to make Indigenous and community conservation one of our 12 global priorities, and to go beyond just figuring out how to work with Indigenous communities, but going to trying to figure out how we embed within our own practice around the world our rights-based approach to everything we're doing, whether it's RED or adaptation or marine conservation, not just working directly with Indigenous communities. So again, I look forward to continuing dialogue.